I'm an ex-casino gambling degenerate. At the peak of my high, you could have came into the casino and stuck a gun to my head. I'd say, pull the trigger. I'm not leaving. I blew 20,000 in the Nugget. I took the limo from the Nugget over to Caesars, dropped another 20. So I was living myself to 20 grand. Once I hit 20, I said, it's time to go try another joint. Blow another 20. I'm stuck like 60,000. I'm down to about 1,800. And then I start winning every hand. I'm getting sevens and I'm splitting them. The dealer's got a 6 and I'm getting a 4 and a 3. I'm doubling down. I'm betting stacks. I cleaned out both cylinders of black. Now I'm working on the purples. I tell the dealer, color me up, baby. I'm out of here. So I'm looking at the chips and I'm thinking to myself, what would happen if I caught that shoe again? I mean, I have like 90-something thousand here. Told the dealer to shuffle. I would say 2/3 into the shoe, I made my last $500 bet. Instead of being sick over the loss, I'm already making plans of going down the next day and taking more money out of my safe deposit box to win back my losses, because I figured if I can get that one shoe that I had before and I can get $500 to $10,000 a hand, which I'm going to have to bring down $150,000 maybe to do this, I could walk out of there with $250,000. I lost within 6 months over $1 million in cash, and whatever money I could borrow, steal, rob. And then I went into the credit system where you can borrow money from the casino in the form of markers. You know, if you take money out of the casino, they don't charge you interest. So why wouldn't I take it from them? But unfortunately, once you start taking out the credit, you're doomed. It's over. My wife had no idea. She wasn't ignorant. She wasn't stupid. She trusted me. The sheriff came to the door with handed her a writ. We have to write down what's in the home. We have to write down all the things because there's going to be a sheriff's sale, because I was being sued by the casinos. She was just a basket case by now. The following week, I was in the casino gambling, and she walked in. And she says, you got to come home. You got to get out of here. You have to come right now. The pit boss came over and I said, look, you got two things. Either I leave or you get her out of here. He says, that's your wife? I said, she could be a hooker. I don't know. Get her out of here. The government now is as addicted to gambling as I was. All the lobbyists for gaming tell you. This is a form of entertainment. No different than going to the ball game. No different than going to the theater, to the movies. People who are in the casinos are spending their disposable income. In the city of Detroit, they say 1 out of 7 homes may go into foreclosure this year. And people say, well, it's Detroit. Of course, the auto industry went south. The auto industry went south. How about the 3 casinos that are in the city of Detroit that are doing over $1 billion a year in revenue? Where's that money coming from? You know, in my state here in Pennsylvania, the government's collecting 55% of every dollar gambled. If you compare it to drugs, it would be legalizing drugs in this country for the tax revenue. Industry comes into your state, believe me, it's no different than if the Vatican was coming here. They become a country within a country. They make the rules. The government knows if they do anything to affect the revenue of the casino operator, it's going to affect their coffers. We'll make them wear seatbelts when they're in their car. We'll make them be able not, after so many drinks, they can't drive. We'll make them not be able to carry guns around the street without a permit. There is not one provision, not one safeguard to protect anyone from becoming a compulsive gambler. In Pennsylvania, you have to have a license to fish in the creeks. So they said, how about we make it a license? And before someone gets this license to gamble in a casino, let's see if they're in bankruptcy, foreclosure, not paying child support. To me, I don't think someone like that should be gambling. Let's not have them cashing checks. Let's not have them giving out credit with no interest. And no one who investigates this industry goes to these casinos during the week at 2 in the morning, 3 or 4. You want to see pathological gambling in full bloom. It's like walking into an opium den. These people are the sick of the sickest. I've been there. When Atlantic City opened up for almost 6 years, they were only open till 4 in the morning and on holidays till 6, and they reopened at 10. So they took a break in between to get them out, let them get some air, go home, think it over, and maybe they won't come back. Then, when other states got gaming, Atlantic City said, we got to go 24/7 to compete. So, what's the state going to complain? Sure, do whatever you want. They never get denied anything. Even today, they're smoking in most of our casinos. New Jersey's a smoke-free state. But the casino said, hey, you're New Jersey, you're a state. We're like the Vatican again. We have our own laws. Every state that has gaming has what's called a casino control board, gaming board, to govern the everyday operations of the casinos. This does not have to go through legislation. Our control board, the gaming board in Pennsylvania, can make this happen overnight. They're the ones that are supposed to make these operators operate without destroying lives. And they're doing it.
We want to call Mr. Bill Kearney.
My name is Bill Kearney, and I was born and raised and today live in the city of brotherly love. And in case you're not aware of it, Philadelphia is the largest city in the country to host casino gambling. Before I go into my testimony, I'd like to thank Representative James for keeping his word and having this hearing. I'd also like to thank Representative Clymer for introducing this bill for the second time. The first time was back in 2005 as House Bill 1245, which in 2006 got voted on as an amendment to our Reform Gaming Bill, Senate Bill 862. It got a split decision and never made it to the Senate Bill 862. I also like to thank the 60 co-sponsors on House Bill 783 who come from both parties, which shows that this is bipartisan legislation. I'd also like to thank Senator Robert Wunderling for introducing a Senate bill in 2005 and a Senate bill in 2007. These bills have the same language as Representative Clymer's Bill 1245 and 783. These bills have been the only legislation drafted since our gaming bill passed in 2004 that addresses the compulsive casino gambling problem before one becomes addicted. For over 20 years, I've been educating the citizens of our state and others throughout our country on the pitfalls of what the gaming industry and an alarming number of our government officials call a form of entertainment, no different than going to the ballpark, theater, or Disney World. Before I go into the importance of why our gaming operators should send their patrons monthly statements, I want you to know a little bit about my credentials on this subject. I started my addiction, which I refer to as my casino gambling addiction, back when casino gambling became legal and available in Atlantic City. It was in the early 80s and I was 32 years old. By 33, I was a compulsive casino gambling degenerate. This form of entertainment cost me my home, business, and everything else I worked hard for. But most of all, it cost me my family. Before my casino addiction, and even though it was legal and available, I never gambled with the ponies, nor did I gamble illegally with bookmakers on sporting events. And before I go on, I want to make it perfectly clear. I take full responsibility for my actions. No one held a gun to my head, at least one I could see. As far back as the late 80s, I testified on compulsive casino gambling at hearings held by the New Jersey Casino Control Board in Trenton, New Jersey. There I brought up safeguards for Atlantic City casinos to adapt to. One of my ideas was for the casinos to send monthly statements. Back in 2004, Representative Clymer invited me to give testimony at the joint public hearings on gambling held at the Pennsylvania Convention Center in Philadelphia. It was on April 1st, April Fool's Day. Couldn't have picked a better day to discuss casino gambling. That day, and knowing the deck was stacked, I presented safeguards so that today's gamblers and the next generation of gamblers, our children and grandchildren, who were born with a joystick in hand and who will now live a short distance from a casino, will be aware of the invisible gun that this gaming industry uses to seduce their prey. Ever since our gaming bill passed, I've been addressing and proving that there are major flaws in our gaming laws, which is there are no safeguards or provisions in place that will protect today's casino gambler and future casino gamblers from becoming what I once was. In other words, there is no consumer protection. Our casinos are operating like amusement parks without cages and safety belts on their rides. Now, it's true that our gaming bill does address the compulsive gambling problem with things like a 1-800-GAMBLER Get Help number and a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week hotline that provides crisis counseling. and a self-exclusion list for those who become addicted to the casino product. A self-exclusion list. Now that in itself should make one wonder, how safe could this so-called form of entertainment be? Do you know of any other product or entertainment venue that has such a provision? But again, all these provisions address the obsessive gambling problem after one becomes a casino gambling junkie. So my question to this committee and to all the others governing this industry is, why are we waiting for the casualties to come home? Today we are addressing one of my safeguards that Representative Clymer put forth once more in House Bill 783. This bill will make the casino operators who are already tracking their patrons money and time spent gambling with comp cards to send monthly statements. This would enable gamblers and their family members to spot a loved one's gambling problem before it gets out of hand.
I have two questions. Chairman Fite, over 75% of Pennsylvania casino patrons are enrolled in casino reward card programs. These cards track the casino's patrons' money and time spent gambling. Now, being that these reward cards are tracking, the system is already in place, what is your opinion on our casino operators sending their patrons monthly statements, making them aware of the few wins and many losses in black and white? And for my second question, do you think our casino operators or their employees should intervene when one of their patrons, who they're tracking, is gambling 7, 8, 9, 10, or up to 15 to 24 hours nonstop and losing thousands of dollars?
Bill, to your first point, I mean, the casinos themselves can send statements or not, and again, I know that you've called before. We've had this discussion before. It's no different than a patron in a bar or somebody who goes to a restaurant who uses their credit card. Those folks know who is going into their establishment. It's the same with a casino. Most businesses simply don't send out monthly statements telling people how much they're spending in the restaurant every month, or how many movies they're going to, or anything of that sort. As to your second point, and I know your issue is compulsive gambling, and that is something that we at the Gaming Control Board take very, very seriously. And I can tell you, Bill, and tell the viewers, the casino industry does not want compulsive gamblers in their casinos.
Now, it's true that our casino operators and way too many of our state legislators oppose sending monthly statements, but their arguments are lame. They say it would infringe on one's privacy. Infringe on one's privacy, since the total reward card holder knows by signing up for this program, all their gambling information is being gathered in order to determine the value of the comps they will receive. Then where is the invasion on one's privacy? Then they say it would trigger compulsive gamblers after reviewing their statement to go back to this casino to win back their losses. And I say, when you get your credit card bill and you spend $2,000, do you run out and spend another $2,000? And remember, when one does the math on their casino monthly statement, there will be no minimum payment option like you get with your credit card company. The money lost will be real money blown. Who knows? Maybe the money's coming from their kids' education or the retirement fund, or worse yet, their household expenses. Gaming proponents ask the question, what proof is there that sending monthly statements will stop one from becoming a compulsive gambler? And if sending statements is such a deterrent, then why doesn't other states with casino gambling make their gaming operators send them? And I tell them that there is no guarantee that statements are going to entice or stop a gambling addict from going back to the casino to win back their losses. The purpose of the monthly statement is, again, to enable gamblers and their family members to address a casino problem before one becomes addicted. And the reason why states with casino gambling don't issue monthly statements is because gaming operators have made state legislators aware that such a provision could affect the casino's bottom line, and that would reduce tax revenues going into state coffers. Today, there are 7 casinos up and running in our state with no consumer protection. And as we sit here, individuals and families are being destroyed. This bill for sending monthly statements should have been in our gaming law from the get-go, or at the least should have passed before the casinos open. And the sad part about this whole state of affairs is that our Gaming Control Board and their regulations can make this legislation happen overnight. They are the ones who are supposed to be governing this industry, and they have done nothing to stop our casino operators from breeding casino degenerates. I brought up this bill to send monthly statements to Governor Rendell on the PCN TV call-in show, and he has said more than once that if first he said it's a good idea, and if this legislation makes it to his desk, he will sign it. Sending monthly statements is not a cure for compulsive gambling. The purpose, once more, is to enable the family members to address the gambling problem before one has the problem. And it will also keep our casino operators in line, because believe me when I tell you, there is not one casino operator or employee that's going to stop someone from destroying themselves and their families. You get a statement from every industry that tracks your money expenditures, like your credit card companies, banks, mortgage companies, and so on. So where is the harm in making this billion-dollar industry, which already has a tracking system in place, to mail monthly statements? I could go on and on. I'll tell you the truth. I almost feel like Sugar Ray Leonard when he fought Duran, and Duran, threw up and said no mask, because basically that's just what happened before. And if you're sitting there shaking your heads, thinking of all the things that you can go to not have this bill done, shame on you. Shame on you, because I don't believe there's a person in this room that don't know the dangers of gambling. And especially when you make it legal and you make it available. Look at us here. Look at the people sitting here. We have kids and grandchildren. Who's going to protect them? Are you going to protect them? Are you going to protect them because you can do this? You can go to the casino and not go overboard? These kids are born with joysticks. They've been playing games of skill all their life. They're waiting to be slaughtered. They're waiting to go into these places, and these people don't care. Do you know, I'm going to tell you, you may not be aware of this, but a lot of people with the casinos, people even say to me, Bill, you're nuts. How do you mess with these people? They're going to do this. They ain't going to do nothing, because the people who run the casinos today aren't street-minded people. These aren't mobsters and gangsters that invented this product. This is corporate America. These people don't use the product and never did. And most of you sitting up there don't use the product. And you can say it's a choice. Hey, I do this. I go bowling. I hit golf balls. Do you want this for your family? Do you want this coming home? Because believe me, a lot of us, and I don't know how many are exactly my age, but when I was 17, the drug thing hit with the hippie days, and we started using drugs for entertainment. All right, and we're still addressing that problem today, because people were probably sitting in this room or another room down the street addressing drugs the same way. It's your responsibility, and it's the gaming board themselves that should get this done.
Okay, Mr. Kearney, thank you. I can see that you're emotionally charged, and I understand.
It's not hard to be emotionally charged when it's the truth.
Thank you, Chairman James, and good morning, Mr. Kearney. Good to have you with us this morning. We have heard, and this has been an ongoing issue, that studies have to be done, and we need to know more about what a compulsive gambler is, and that certainly makes sense. But you're a street person. You've been out there. So you interact with hundreds of people from the time that you were a compulsive gambler and you were doing what you were doing. So tell us a little bit about we know about your experience, but your interaction with your neighbors, with your family.
Okay.
Just give us some real live experiences without going too long.
Okay, because believe me, I wrote a book about this, so I can go on all day. But what happened to me, again, I never gambled, even though I was around gambling. right? Nowhere near as much gambling as a person of color is around. Okay, because remember, the neighborhood I grew up in, Philadelphia, it was Northeast Philly, and back in the 50s and 60s, that was considered the suburbs to North Philly, Southwest Philly. We didn't have people in the corner shooting craps, right? But we had the racetracks, and there was, other gambling as I got older, but we didn't gamble as young people, as people of color in our state, in the cities all throughout our country see. And that's what always surprises me when I hear people of color saying that they don't get it when they lived with this vice all their lives, longer than what I did.
Yeah, I have a question for both gentlemen, but more directed to Jerry because he is a publisher in Philadelphia where I live. And Jerry, the question I have for, again, both of you, in another 6, 7, 8 months, they're going to be awarding out the license and the locations of the casinos that are opening up, and we're going to have 2 in Philadelphia. One at the Bud plant, possibly, if Trump gets his license. Now, that area...
And these four neighbors don't stop it.
well, remember now, the neighbors may, at least the neighbors are trying, Jerry, because not one councilman, councilwoman, senator, representative is of color is taking a stance on this. And if Trump if he gets his license and opens up and does $300 to $400 million a year, and if 70% of that comes out of that area of people of color who can least afford to be in a casino that's going to be open 24/7, serve free alcohol beverages, cash personal and government checks, be comping these people to justify their losses. Why is it the NAACP, I got it right, why is it that organization and no organization of color or representation of color is taking a stance on this to protect the people in that area?
Do either of your newspapers have positions on gambling? Did you, when it was an issue being discussed?
We're not opposed to it at the Philadelphia Sun. And I don't think African-American organizations, civil rights-based and Outlook have really taken a position. We receive money from casino operators in Detroit, Michigan, where there's a large branch, and from Las Vegas and in Massachusetts, where there are casinos. So it's not a position that we've taken as a national organization. Up or down.
You said that as you was starting on your habit, that you went from 1,000, then 2,000, et cetera, What I wasn't clear on, was you getting statements at that time, or you wasn't getting statements?
Listen, no casino, listen, come on. The places are built with no windows, no clocks. They have everything in these joints to keep you there. Okay, and believe me, let me tell you something. This is just the beginning for you guys. Because right now, you got the other vendors, the other merchants in our state that now are at war. Okay, because I'm sure you guys know a little bit about these casinos, even though, and just like our gaming board, but do you know they are allowed to be open 24/7? You do understand that, right? And you do understand that they are allowed to serve free booze. Do you know that? Because when I address people like the 2 that run Conti and Staple, I think his name is, from the Liquor Control Board, they weren't aware of this. And then when I questioned Mr. Stephen Kaplan, I think he's Secretary of Banking, and I brought up the fact that you can go into the casino with your checkbook and you can cash up to $2,500 in a 24-hour period in every one of our casinos in Pennsylvania. And guess what? They're not cashing that check for you. They're using a third party, a secure check cashing company that is not allowed to check the balance of those accounts. So they're leaving it open for their patrons to cut bad checks and become criminals. Did you guys know that? Did anybody look into that? How much research was done on that? Any of those things I just mentioned. You want research on sending statements, but you didn't do any research about gaming coming to Pennsylvania. You only took some polls. Nobody did any research to see if they should be open 24/7. Should they serve free booze? Should they cash checks? Should they have the ATM machines on the casino floor? Because remember, in our bill, you're not allowed to give credit. No credit in Pennsylvania's casinos. Now, if they've got the ATM machines on board and people are going in using their credit card and taking cash advancements and getting credit from that company, and the casino's getting a kickback for having that machine on their floor, are they part of a transaction of a loan there? Okay. Anybody look into that? I mean, I would think that would be that's something I would want to check out.
Okay.
When the casinos in our state are allowed to cash up to 5 personal checks within a 24-hour period. Now they do have a surcharge when they do cash these checks. Do they have a banking license, these casinos? I mean, being that they are charging for each transaction, and also what jurisdiction does your agency have, or did it have any type of jurisdiction or anything to do with what's going on in these casinos with these cashing the checks?
Well, I knew it was going to happen when I came here tonight. Somebody was going to call and ask a question I have no knowledge of whatsoever, and it has now happened. I really don't know what relationship, if any, we have with the casinos. Since I've been in the department, I've not been exposed to any questions relating to the activities that go on in casinos. But it's a great question. I'm going to take it back to the staff at the Department of Banking tomorrow and ask for their guidance.
We'll go to Representative Malfahat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. I know we have a lot of things. I guess, Mr. Kearney, I'm a little confused because in my conversation and discussion with Ms. Horner, she said that there's no research to prove or to justify or indicate that rewards drive gambling behavior, and you're trying to convince me that, as someone who's been through it, that it does. Am I correct or not correct?
You're absolutely correct, 100%.
And in your mind, you feel that rewards do drive behavior?
Obviously, why won't you reach into your pocket when you figure the same expenses that it would cost you to go to a 5-star restaurant, to stay at a 5-star hotel when they do have their hotels up, to go to shows and buy tickets? If you can take that 2 G's to the casino and get comped, you're basically, in your mind, you're gambling for nothing, and you got a shot at winning, you think.
What would happen in Pennsylvania, in your mind, if we passed legislation that outlawed rewards? What would happen? And would we see a drastic decline in gaming? And
yes.
that may be good or bad. It depends how you look at that and what the results are.
Well, there's something in my testimony I didn't bring up because sometimes I say too much, and people say, yeah, you say too much, you're getting into things. But you know what? You think it's just the money, the revenue the casino's worried about losing? You're probably not aware of this, but no one in our country has ever sued a casino for their losses, not the gambler nor their family member. All right. Now you're talking about having a paper trail. All right. Now I'm no lawyer, but you could dig up Johnny Cochran and I would bury him in a lawsuit like this because all I do is bring in the person's statements for a year and a half. When they took a guy or a woman that was making 30, 40 G's a year and comped them, maybe, starting with the buffet, took them up to that penthouse suite. They're giving them all these things to entice them to keep them there. The guy's gambling 30, 40, 50 hours a week. When they do the math and add up all his gambling revenues, it may be $250,000. And these casino operators, you think they have this on their screen. It's right in front of them. Do you think they're going to stop this person? Okay, but they know when that guy does a header off the parking lot or blows his brains out, and that spouse gets a lawyer, and the lawyer says, personal responsibility, nobody held a gun to his head. And she says, sure, but look at this. And you can see on a paper trail how these people were cultivated into compulsive gambling degenerates. One lawsuit, the floodgates open, and these casinos are addressing the same thing the tobacco industry and the Catholic Church has been addressing.
Okay,
and that's what they fear.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Waters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to start off by saying that I know Mr. Kearney, that if anyone is in the attendance today is happy that 783 Paul Clymer's bill has been up for a hearing today is you.
Absolutely.
Because I know how dear it is.
Because I know it will save families and individuals. Well, I know that if you do the math and you never gambled and you live in Bethlehem or you live up in you live in areas where casino gambling is not an hour and a half away. It was 4 or 5 hours, and you went to that casino once or twice a year, and now it's 20 minutes away, and you're being inundated every day of the week of this magnificent facilities. Your neighbors are telling it, your employees are telling you, and you go into these places, and after 2, 3, 4 months, you get your statement, and you do the math, and you ask your spouse to look at theirs, and then you add up, and you realize that's 3, 4 G's going. Again, no minimum payment here. That's real money blown. That is gone.
Okay, thank you. I just want to ask you a couple questions, and I hope I'm not crossing any lines.
They can't cross any lines, right?
Good, thank you for that. One that I want to start is that I had asked Ms. Horner a question about the complimentary gifts that people receive that are that engage in the gaming on a regular basis, do you know if the people who take them, are they winners and losers, or do you know the average of winners and losers?
Mr. Representative, there are no winners, please.
Talking about the complimentary tickets, not people who gamble all the time. Well, the regular gamblers. I'm quite sure a lot of this money is not from people who get complimentary tickets too. That is the revenue that you're speaking of. But there is a statement that I get once a month, and that is a statement from my bank account, and it lets me know what I have in there. And I watch it very closely because I want to make sure that it's right according to my own records. And if and I'm quite sure you have said openly time and time again that you were a millionaire. I don't know if you still are, but I know you said that you
No,
lost.
I'm not. This keeps me broke. This is my due addiction, but go ahead. There's no money in this. I'm the lobbyist without a lobby. You know what I mean? I do this on my own. Even coming here comes out of my pocket. I don't get paid. And this ain't like a part-time job like some of our gaming board members have, making 145 G's a year that absolutely know nothing about this industry.
It's Bill Kermey in Philadelphia. How you doing?
Good, Bill. How are you?
Good. Chairman, you have said many times that our Gaming Control Board protects the public. Now, if this is true, can you tell us why your agency refuses to make our casino operators send their patrons who they're tracking with reward cards monthly statements? And please don't say that it has to go through legislation, because you know as well as I do that the Gaming Control Board, in its regulations, can make our casinos send these monthly statements.
Thank you, Bill. And it's, Larry, Bill calls in and talks about this. This is an issue he feels very strongly about, and we certainly appreciate that. The casino industry certainly could send out monthly statements. And I've said to Bill before, when I've talked to him personally and on the show, we just don't think that this is something that the board should involve itself in.
Industry, when it opened up in New Jersey, all right, it wasn't the drug money and the mob money that came into those casinos when in 1984, when they ordered the casinos in Atlantic City, when they brought in the federal banking laws. And I told this when I testified in New Jersey. I said, listen, the feds brought in the banking laws to stop the laundering of drug money and mob money. That money was coming from merchants. We were coming in with our registers every day of the week from New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore. And today, go to the casino, you're still seeing that. Every dollar you're talking about taken from this industry is losses. Is losses, man. And I know you can say they're going to go to Delaware, Connecticut, West Virginia, New Jersey, but they're going to go a lot more now that they're convenient in their neighborhoods. It's just human nature. It's going to happen.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, Chairman Flake, it's Bill Kermey in Philadelphia. I know. How you doing? I know you're familiar with the casino monthly statement legislation that has been put forth in our House and Senate in the last 3 sessions, and it's being introduced again this session. The legislation is going to make the casino operators send their patrons who they're already tracking with reward cards monthly statements that will show them their wins and mostly losses in black and white. Now, my question to you, Chairman, is it true that the casino monthly statement bill does not have to go through legislation because the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board that you chair has the power to make our casino operators send these statements?
The short version is I don't know the answer to Bill's question.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Kearney. And on this particular issue, this is of importance to me, and I'm very open-minded as to determining whether or not this is something that we want to mandate on the private sector to be able to do with their visitors to their gaming facilities. And I'm very much interested in obtaining the information on both sides of the story. I'm certainly not a dummy. I'm considered a formally educated man. I have a college degree, I have a law degree. I'm licensed to practice law in Pennsylvania, as well as the federal courts. So I have a little bit of an understanding and appreciation, and I am a gambler. I like to gamble, but I control it, you're right. So with that being said, what I'm trying to do is to ascertain information, because that's what lawyers do. We collect the information, then we weigh it on both sides. And we heard from the gaming board about some information relative to this, and you have some opinions relative to this. The one that you focused on very specifically was in the mid-'80s, I think you said 1984, was the introduction of the comp cards or the complimentary program. And I'm not sure if I understood you correctly. Are you saying that that's the first time that the gaming community or the gaming industry provided complimentary rewards to gamblers, or is that the earliest that you know that they actually began to document it with the cards?
Okay, what I said, if you would have listened.
I did listen.
Okay, well then you didn't hear what I said, because what I said is that slot players I didn't have a comp card. Okay, you had a casino host. They tracked everything you did. They fed it into the computer. Back in the day, the computers weren't as fast as they are today, but everything you did, they kept track of. Your average bet per hand, okay, or per hour, I'm sorry, the amount of money you gamble. Because remember, somebody mentioned about time. Time is one of the most important things for the casino operator. All right? I used to walk into certain casinos that I didn't play at, go in with 5, 10, 15 G's, sit down and play a half a shoe and win 5, 8 G's real quick, get up and walk out. And before I left, I'd ask for a comp, and they'd say, no, we're sorry, sir, you didn't play long enough. They want you in there. They want you. Time is their most important thing, because the more time you're there, the more money they're going to take from you. They didn't issue out these cards till the early 80s when it became real popular. And again, it was a slow process. Once the laws, the federal banking laws in 1985 were implemented in this industry, they had to go to the comp card, because now, I don't know if you're a movie buff, but if you saw the Casino, the movie at the end, when De Niro says, look what's coming now. This is what it is. Blue-haired people, seniors, polyester suits coming into the casinos. That's when they started targeting. And when that happened, the street guys that ran these joints sold out to corporate America. Corporate America has sold it to our government. People like Gary Loveman, a Harvard professor that runs Harrah's, one of the largest gaming operators in the world, they sold it to you people. You guys bought this product. And again, if I would see you raise your hands, I'm sure, I would like to ask, for instance, Eddie, when's the last time your office is maybe an hour from the casino? How many times have you been in the casino when it's been open?
Mr. Kearney, if I could interrupt, I asked a specific question.
All right, go ahead.
As to whether or not the casinos provided complimentary...
They started comping back in the Vegas days. They used to have what were called junkets. Okay? They used to have junkets back in the day before Atlantic City opened up. Okay, once Atlantic City opened up, then they realized this is Vegas compared to Atlantic City. Well, surely today you can say this is like comparing Bloomingdale's to Foreman Mills or Kmart. Okay, Atlantic City is 90% gambling. The revenues that go into Atlantic City are much greater in gambling revenues than they are in Las Vegas.
Can I discern from all the gobbledygook that
it's not gobbledygook, it's history, Mr. Lawyer. I think you might want to look into that, being that you're supporting this.
Mr. Kearney,
industry. You're honoring this industry, I should say.
We need to just
okay, go ahead.
All I want to make sure is the answer to the question was that casinos, to the best of your knowledge, provided complimentary services even prior to 1984 when the cards became the industry standard.
Bugsy Siegel gave out comps.
Okay.
Remember him, Bugsy Siegel?
Yeah, I've read the book.
The casinos in our state are open 24/7. They're allowed to serve free booze on the casino floor. They're allowed to cash up to 5 personal checks in a 24-hour period. Now, each check can't go over $500, but they will cash all 5 at one time. So it's feasible for a patron to lose almost $2,500 in a 24-hour period. They're also using the total reward card system that tracks their patrons' amount of time gamble, their average bet per hand, their wins and their losses. This is how the casino operator determines what comps they're going to receive. Now, today, there's 2 bills, one in our House of Representatives, House Bill 783, and one in our Senate 423, that would make the casino operators mail these patrons out monthly statements, being that they're already tracking them with this comp card system. Would you support this legislation? And my other question is, isn't it true that in your jurisdiction, in your regulations, the gaming board can make this happen without it going through any type of legislation?
Bill, how are you? I appreciate your comments. I know these are very significant and important issues to you, and these issues are not new to me. The concept of the requiring the monthly statements to be sent out by the casinos. And, you know, it's a situation that's that's under study. At this time, I'm not prepared to commit to it.
Okay, what I'm trying to just, in my mind, I'm trying to educate myself, and I have very specific questions, and that was one of them, whether or not there was monitoring or not. Apparently there wasn't as strict as there is today, based on what you're telling me, because it was more informal than formal, correct?
Well, they only targeted table players, not slot players. And I'm going really by Atlantic City.
Based on your knowledge.
Yeah.
Your limited knowledge. I understand that.
It's not limited. Okay, believe me. I mean, if you had a debate on it, I'm sure you'd see how easy it would be to bury anyone in this room when it comes to this product.
A few times on this show talking about the seniors, and I know you do great work in protecting them, but I have a couple questions. The first question is, have you been to any of our casinos in our state? Because if you have, you would see that 60 to maybe even 65% of all the patrons of our casinos are seniors from that great generation. And these casinos are comping these people. They're serving them free booze while they're gambling. Not all, but some of the casinos ought not to, and some do. But they're also cashing personal checks up to $2,500. But have you been in our casinos? Have you seen what's going on in the everyday operations? I know you have no jurisdictions to do anything about it today. Maybe in the future you will. But what do you think about this? I mean, what is your opinion about it?
That's a good question. The short answer is no, I've not been in there. I have no desire to go into the casinos. I'm not a gambler. I haven't looked there, and you bring up a very good point about who this gaming is really targeted to. It's targeting to people many times on fixed incomes who are going in there and spending it. And it's one of the reasons that I was never a supporter of this. We are raising money for the state. Basically, what is a sin tax? There's just no other way to put it.
All I'm trying to find out, though, is relative to these statements and whether or not it's a good mechanism, if you want to call it that, to control gaming. And I think we've heard, and I think you acknowledged, that there hasn't been any studies that say that. However, you seem to draw a parallel between the statement that would come from a casino as to, and this may be a point that you can clarify for me when I'm concluded here, as to, is it a winning and loss statement or is it a volume of play statement? And my credit card statement and or my bank statement, which I think are uniquely different, because I'm, with my credit card, I went and I bought a new pair of shoes, and I brought the shoes at home, and I may have forgot that on the first of the month I bought the shoes, and then when my statement came and there was a $80 purchase, refreshed my recollection, because I've worn the shoes now and they're worn out, and with the quality of some products today, they might even been in the garbage by a month. But that being said, that's not the same as a gaming statement, because I may not, and I'll use my own gambling situation at all, I may not go to Atlantic City for months. I may not go to the local casino, which is 30 or 40 miles from my home, for months. So my statement that comes monthly, if that's the frequency, would it be a cumulative statement? Would it be a monthly statement? Would it reflect my last time I was there? Is it my number of hours that I was in the casino? Is it the amount of dollars that I put in the slot machine? That's what I'm confused on, because I don't know that it would regulate my play, because I knew that when I was there I spent $100 or $1,000. Given the fact that I'm not necessarily a compulsive gambler, and I think the compulsive behavior studies, whether it's gambling, drinking, alcohol, shopping, or whatever the vice might be, suggests that the monitoring doesn't prevent it. There are other issues that prevent: education, intervention, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I'm trying to find out, because I am concerned, particularly in my district. It's a moderate district relative to income in Pennsylvania, and the last thing that we certainly want to do in Pennsylvania, or my legislative district, is have average people become poor people, and I don't want to conclude with that. But that's what I'm trying to find out, and I know you have a lot of history and you have a lot of personal experience with the issue, but specifically, I'm trying to discern how the statement prevents me from gambling, and that's what I can't. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
You can't grasp that. You can't understand that.
No.
But you could grasp when you put those shoes, and then you got the statement a month later, okay? And remember, with those shoes, you have the option of taking them back.
Maybe.
You don't. No, you have a real good option of that. You have no option to get back your losses.
Right.
All right. So the statement is an awareness. Think about it.
Okay.
What can you give me? Any industry in our country that is tracking you, your money expenditures, that's not sending you a statement, that's tracking you. It doesn't make you aware of what you did, where you spent
My
that
local
money.
supermarket doesn't send me a statement.
Do they track you?
Actually, they do. I have I know here in Harrisburg they have the Giant card.
Okay.
And where I live in New Kensington, we have the Giant Eagle card.
Okay, so all right.
They're tracking us, and I believe they're tracking how much we spend in their store,
right,
what products we purchase, the frequency that we purchase the products, and a number of marketing tools that they use. Right. In fact, they have gas perks. That's a compliment. Are they encouraging me to buy?
Right, now, are you paying were you using cash in that market, or using your credit card?
I can use cash.
Well,
I
what
can
do you
use? Debit card.
Just for an answer, like what would you use?
Depending on the day, if I have the cash.
But if you use your credit card, you're going to get a statement for it.
For the purchase, yes.
Yeah. See, there's a million things, not a million, but there's a lot of ways you can come up and say, where's the importance? The importance is common sense. Please, I mean, come on. You're telling me how educated you are. Have some common sense. Have some decency. Have some decency, and let the citizens of this state see what they're doing in these joints.
Mr. Kearney, I would refrain from any personal attacks.
Well, it becomes personal in here because you look at. I can tell you who's on the left side, who's on the right side, and the whole left side can come up with all these scenarios. My God, what's wrong with you people?
We have a hearing.
This ain't stopping the casinos from being open. Come on.
Again, thank you, Mr. Kearney, for your comments. I appreciate your responses, and I'm going to continue to digest the information relative to the benefits, advantages, and disadvantages of statements, and we'll continue that. Again, thank you for appearing today. I certainly respect your opinion. Whether I agree or disagree is irrelevant. I certainly appreciate your stance. Thank you again for coming, and thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Jeremy Collins. Governor Rendell and those of you who are in favor of casinos in our state say it's no different going to a casino than it is going to the ballpark or the theater. If that is true, then why is it that you and the other voting members, along with over 300 employees of the Gaming Control Board, are not allowed to gamble in any Pennsylvania casino? Is it because we don't want you guys to become compulsive gamblers, or is it because we don't want our gambling board members and the employees hanging around where those scrupulous characters that the casino environment attracts?
Well, I don't think it's either of those things. I think it's only appropriate to avoid an appearance of impropriety or what would be an apparent conflict, which would be to have the regulators in facilities which they are in fact regulating and gambling. I think it's more of an appearance issue and also a way of avoiding any potential conflicts. And that would be the reason, in my estimation.
All right, and go ahead on line one, please. You're on.
Yeah, Jeremy Collins. Our casino...
Sir, I regret to tell you that your call is not welcome, and we'll spare you the embarrassment and not say your name on the air this time. We know you have a history of calling our program under different names and phone numbers. If you can't represent yourself honestly, please do not call us. It's an abuse of our process and a waste of everyone's time. Philadelphia and Bill, you have the floor.
Yeah, Senators, are either one of you familiar with Senate Bill 423? This bill will make our casino operators who are already tracking their patrons' money and time spent gambling with ComCards to send monthly statements. This would enable gamblers and their family members.
We've taken too many calls. I warned you last week, Bill. Stop calling our program and pretending to be somebody else.
Bill in Bucks County. Bill, you're with Governor Tom Corbett. Good morning.
Yeah, Governor, good morning. Hey, Governor, today we have 11 casinos operating in our state with absolutely no consumer protection.
Excuse me, Bill. Excuse me, I'll let the governor answer. But, Bill, you know what? Never call my show again. You called in and called
it. It's something the governor talked about.
Excuse me, Bill. Bill, excuse me.
When he was Attorney General, he knows this problem.
I'll let the governor answer. But, Bill, here's the thing, Bill. If you want to call in on that, tell the screener. Don't lie and call in a voter ID.
You won't let me on because you won't face this. Nobody wants to.
I'll let the governor answer. I'm just telling you as a policy.
He still supports the casinos mailing their patrons monthly statements.
All right, I'll ask the governor. I'll let the governor answer.
I didn't hear the question.
Go ahead, right ahead again, Bill. Ask it again.
The question is, Governor, I talked to you about this when you were the Attorney General. In our casinos today, in our House and in our Senate, has been legislation that's been put forth in the last 4 sessions that would make our casino operators mail the patrons who are enrolled in the reward card program monthly statements. Now, that accounts for about 85 to 90% of all Pennsylvania's gambling in our casinos. These statements will enlighten the gamblers of the amount of money and time they're spending. Now, I'm asking you if you support this, and if you do, this legislation is sitting in the Senate today. It passed through the House.
Okay, we got your question. Thank you, Bill. All right, thanks, Bill, very much for the call. Thank you, Bill. Governor, if you'd like to answer, that'd be fine.
Bill, yes, I do. I think I said that a long time ago. I was never a fan in 2004 when I was running for Attorney General for the casinos. The casinos are there. They are bringing money into Pennsylvania, but I think it's a good idea if people know how much money they're spending.
The crisis we went through, it wasn't part of the normal economic cycle. What happened was people on Wall Street who took these unbelievable risks with other people's money. They made bets. They were making bets on, what was going to happen in the housing market. They would create these derivatives and all these instruments that nobody understood, but it was basically operating like a big casino. So we just want them to operate in a way that's fair and honest and in the open, so that we don't have to go through what we've already gone through.
Ask yourself, how can anybody lose money running a casino, really?
By her saying that only proves that she knows casinos are a scam.